The theory of mind was developed by Dr. Kappas, who was the founder of the Kappasinian method for hypnosis. And I'm a hypnotherapist of the HMI College of Hypnotherapy. And now let me teach you about your mind with this model, the theory of mind. So you see here this sphere on the page, this circle. Now we're going to imagine that this is the mind. This is your mind. Now starting at birth, we are all born with a certain area of the mind that is called the primitive mind. The primitive mind is in charge of primitive functions, as you may guess, those being called fight and flight, the fight-flight mechanism here in the primitive mind. Interestingly, babies are actually born with two fears, the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. We are these kind of pure consciousness beings with this very fragile physical body. Being fragile as we are and relationally dependent, we are also not developed mentally. Babies don't have the mental structure that we eventually develop. And so that's what we're going to be talking about here with this theory of mind, is how that mental structure develops itself. And there is actually a more modern version of fight-flight that we've added here, and that is freeze, the freeze mechanism. You see, it's a little bit more sophisticated than just fleeing from a predator or fighting for your life, because the freeze mechanism would have us hide in a bush from a predator. And so you see, it's almost like the use of tools, but it's still very much in that primitive kind of reaction. Freeze in a modern sense might be when we're procrastinating. You see, the way that we learn is by identification and association. Without the mechanism of analysis or logic and the mental structure, we just have associations, and with those associations, we make identities to. And now we begin to have experiences, some positive experiences, positive associations here, and then, yes, some negative associations, of course, and so on and so forth, until eventually this part of the mind that we're developing is actually starting to become something that is like a mental tool, something that we can actually utilize so that we are not just always reacting to brand new experiences. We begin to map them in the mind as known associations. This is all happening between the ages of 0 and 8. During this stage, we are essentially creating two parts of the mind, because these known associations are what keep us safe, or at least that is what the child believes. We must protect these known associations. And so as we gather these known associations, we actually do form two parts of the mind, the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. These known associations are kept in the subconscious mind because we're essentially protecting them and keeping them underground so that they cannot be threatened, because they are what keep us safe, according to this child's mind. The subconscious mind is 88% of the mind, and the conscious mind is 12% of the mind. In order for something new to happen in your life, in order for you to take new action, to have a new state of feeling and thinking, you actually have to have the whole mind sign off on it. But the subconscious mind is being protected, and it is 88% of the mind. And I'll go even further and say that we actually have a society that is emphasizing the use of the conscious mind. And that conscious mind is only 12%, and we can't get things done with only 12% of the mind. We need the subconscious mind to sign off on it. And at this time, by about that age of 8, it's approximate, but it's pretty universal, we also begin to develop the critical mind. And the critical mind is what is helping us to make some sense of the world. The critical mind is protecting the subconscious mind. The critical mind is actually made up of part subconscious mind and part conscious mind. The critical mind, this layer, is a filter, or even you might say a bouncer, to keep things from entering the subconscious mind, lest you be threatened. And so the conscious mind builds, and we are now gaining tools of logic, reasoning, analysis, willpower, and decision-making. And willpower sometimes can get us somewhere, but you know what? When willpower works, it's because the subconscious mind has signed off on it. And I like to also highlight here decision-making as something a bit different than holistic choice. Choice is something that is holistic. It is something that is using your whole being, and it's how new things can happen. But decision-making is something more of a tool that is utilized by the conscious mind, an affect, of the conscious mind. What happens now when we have a new thought or a new habit that we want to instill in our life? These are coming at us all the time, and actually in hypnotherapy, we call these message units. And I like to talk about these associated with one another, message units, and what we experience as new thoughts and the interest in creating new habits, because message units are always coming at us. Message units are the ideas, the new thoughts, and the new things that we want to instill in our life. But message units are also other kinds of stimulus, other information that is constantly coming toward us, especially in this very advanced technological and informational age. And as we experience an overwhelm of message units, then we have the tendency to become stressed out and confused. And now let's go ahead and isolate again those positive new experience, new ideas that we want to bring in, the new habits that we want to instill in our lives. Well, we bring one of those in. They come in through the conscious mind. We become aware of them, and we intend to send them down to the whole mind, to the subconscious mind. But guess what? That bouncer is there. The critical mind is there. And as that new thought, the intention for a new habit, comes up against the critical mind, it gets bounced out. At about the 30 to 45 minute time, any new idea, any thought, any message unit, the information that comes into the conscious mind, at 30 minutes, it starts to distort and to diffuse, and something that we can even hold on to becomes elusive, and at about 90 minutes, it is kicked out entirely. And so what do we do? What do we do? We want to get those message units, those thoughts, those new ideas that are good for us. We want to get it into that subconscious mind. There are a couple of times of day when you naturally are able to access the subconscious mind. And there are other ways that we can access intentionally the subconscious mind. Well, you may have guessed it, as I am a hypnotherapist, one of the ways is by hypnosis, by the hypnotherapeutic process. Because in hypnosis, we actually get past that critical mind and drop down into the subconscious mind new known associations. And we do this in hypnotherapy. We use the whole mind. You would use your 12% in the ways that you would be instilling new habits and changing and shifting and making those decisions toward those better habits, making choices even to have different feeling states. There are also 2 times per day when you are naturally in hypnosis, and you can use these for yourself right now. Those 2 times a day are going into and coming out of sleep. When we're going into sleep, it is called hypnagogic. When we're coming out of sleep, that state is called hypnopompic. And you can hear in the root there, hypno, right? It is when the whole mind is accessible, the critical mind is in abeyance, and we have access to the subconscious mind. And so that's why some personal development practices would have you do your prayers or your affirmations or your meditation as you go into sleep. Likewise, when you awaken first thing in the morning to do your prayers, affirmations, or meditation is a highly beneficial time to access the whole mind. At other times of day, if you meditate or do self-hypnosis, you can on your own work with your whole mind, work with the 100%. And I still recommend going to see a practitioner, one who is skilled in these advanced techniques, many other expert techniques, to be able to work with the subconscious mind. And so it is really important for you to learn how to work with your subconscious mind. You can start tonight as you go into your sleep stage. And then you can work with coming out of it. You can also learn how to do self-hypnosis and meditation other parts of the day. And of course, you can work with a hypnotherapist, a meditation teacher, or an intuitive worker of some kind, because all of these modalities work with the subconscious mind, work with that meta mind. And so I invite you to take that journey today, to start to work with your whole mind.